This is an informational Wellness Wednesday about specific topic. In this case, tonight, we're going to talk about the Nutra Relief 10% niacinamide. This is really quite an interesting product in that the 10% niacinamide, why it's called 10% niacinamide, and the tagline is collagen power. And I want to tell you why we call it collagen power, is it's a percentage that is pharmaceutical in that it's a higher concentration of niacinamide. Back in 2009, when I first began, my partners, my doctors, I could talk about them all the time in terms of their backgrounds. But one specific doctor, Dr. Alan Schwartz, who wrote the book on autism, he was really interested in children, autistic children, and he really liked niacinamide at that time for brain function. And in 2009, that was not a big deal at that time in terms of putting niacinamide in topical creams. But since that time, you will see if you're involved in cosmeceuticals or dermaceuticals, skin creams specifically, niacinamide is almost everything. This B vitamin is so intriguing in terms of what it does for the skin, in terms of complexion, and a lot of things we'll talk about tonight. But the concentration of 10% niacinamide is beneficial in that it does so much more. And it's really become almost my best-selling cream. And it's kind of interesting in terms of the functionality of it and what it does do for cartilage, for preservation of joints, bone health, and for arthritic condition, which is really interesting. So many people with arthritic condition. And it's come out of the idea of that originally, how could a skin cream or a B vitamin be so effective in terms of all the different things that it does? So that's kind of what we're going to discuss tonight in terms of what are the benefits of 10% niacinamide. Now, many of you may have been using this. This is something that we have in a number of the kits that we put together. And we like to include it because it's so beneficial for pain and joint mobility. What's really interesting about it is the way that it helps with pain. Now, many of you used to the Trauma Max, which is our signature pain cream. Sorry for my language tonight, just moving kind of fast. But the 10% niacinamide was just so effective in terms of arthritic condition. So it doesn't have pain relievers in it, which is interesting because the anti-inflammatory properties of it is what seems to be so effective, is that it tends to just do something in the joints, which really assists in the mobility of people with arthritic condition, but also with people that have bone on bone and issues with skin conditions. And it's so effective for that. So it also does something which is very interesting in the ligaments, shoulder injuries and ligament injuries and things like that, knee injuries and hip injuries, where you've got ligaments that are the supporting structure of the deterioration of cartilage in the knee, the hip, and any other location in your hands too. That when you have the destruction of cartilage, usually it's like no return. It's like, game over. Now, what am I going to do? But it's so interesting how the 10% niacinamide, this B vitamin, protects existing cartilage and increases something so unique in the fact that it produces new fibroblasts, skin fibroblasts, or cell fibroblasts. It almost creates a veneer, and that's why we call it collagen power, is it creates a veneer in locations of where you have bone on bone. If you have ever had a bone-on-bone situation or a hip replacement about to happen or a knee replacement, we've got knee damage, a lot of times it feels like a bone spur, or that you've got something that is just so painful within that context. By utilizing the 10% niacinamide and other topicals that we have, but let's talk about the 10% specifically, it creates this fibroblast of a veneer over the bone-on-bone applications. It actually creates a slide factor of these skin, beginning of skin in this case, but it's the structure of new cell formation. And so what ends up happening is people that are pending to get some of the hip replacement and knee replacement will find that this can assist them in the case of them in their inability to do it right now. And a lot of times I've had contractors or people that were suffering or needing to have these and said, hey, I can't afford a knee replacement right now. I can't afford to be out of work and recover for 3 or 4 months. And that's just something I can't do. What can I do in the meantime because of the pain? And they found that 10% niacinamide, together with the Trauma Max as a pain reliever, have been very beneficial in terms of alleviating that need to immediately go out and get a knee replacement or a hip replacement. I'm not saying this as a suggestion to not do it, but a lot of people want to delay that from happening for a number of reasons. But what's coming out of this is the idea of the effectiveness for pain relief, but also for just the ability to preserve the existing cartilage that they have. And that is really what's so interesting about it. Why would the 10% niacinamide be so effective in doing that? It's kind of interesting because it's also known as the do-it-all ingredient. It's a B3 vitamin is the name of the vitamin. It isn't irritating and plays nice with other ingredients in a formulation, which is kind of important. It's an ingredient that blends very well in topical ingredients, but as a 10% concentration, it's very strong for what it does. Niacinamide strengthens the skin barriers, reduces inflammation, minimizes pores when it's utilized on the face, regulates oil production, and improves hyperpigmentation. So that's the reason it's used a lot in cosmeceuticals. So it's not often that it's utilized for joint improvement, arthritic condition. But that's what's so interesting about how it works, is that it can go down into the structure of the hands in terms of arthritic condition or knee and really preserve what's going on in terms of existing cartilage and create this veneer of fibroblasts that essentially are an opportunity for there to be alleviate pain and offer kind of a lubrication for the joints. And it's been very, very popular in terms of how it works. It's really interesting. It promotes brighter, younger looking appearance. And specifically, I like it that it works better than glucosamine in that case. A lot of people know that glucosamine as a product for knee joint and that kind of thing does take much longer for it to be effective, but that's specifically what it does. Kind of an idea of it's working better than glucosamine is that it penetrates through the liposomal delivery technology, which is why it's a distinctly different cream than just a topical cream that you put on the surface of your skin. The ability for the liposomal delivery technology, which is every one of the Nutra Relief clinical line that you see there, we use the LDT, which is a liposomal delivery technology. And we've gone a little bit into the science of liposomes and how it's utilized, but a synonymous word would be it increases the delivery technology, similar to the word transdermal, although we don't use that word because it's an FDA regulated term to deliver drugs through the skin or topically. We only use amino acid, vitamins, and minerals. And that's just the other aspect to our formulations, that we tend to stick within that category rather than putting all these unique formulations or different things that you've never heard of before, because those are the building blocks of cellular mitochondrial function. So what we're really doing is we're nourishing through these topicals, these vitamins, amino acids, and minerals, the formation of new skin cells, new cells directly at a mitochondrial level. So you're increasing the production of new skin cells in your face. That's why it's used in the cosmeceutical, dermaceutical realm. But it's also wonderful for the production and protection of cartilage in a way that's so unique. Typically, a lot of people think that the cartilage cannot be affected because it doesn't have a blood source that's necessarily going to it. Many people think they have to get it replaced, and that's kind of the new technologies with knee replacements cartilage replacement. But the key is try to save what you have as it's deteriorating. But that's one of the beauties of 10% niacinamide, is it does protect what you have. And that's really kind of the benefits of why we see, why would I use this cream? Why would I want to use these creams? The other thing it does, which is really impressive, is its protection and assistant with skin diseases, psoriasis, eczema, these kind of things with the skin. I think Shelley has a wonderful testimonial of her daughter with her baby child. I think it was 3 or 6 weeks old, where it had the skin rash. And if it's gentle enough to work effectively for a young child, that's the beauty of how this cream can work in a topical application. Also wonderful for adult acne and your teenagers that have acne. It's just a wonderful thing for drying up the inflammation of acne and severe acne as our children are growing up, and also for adult acne in conditions of malaria and the hyperpigmentation on the skin. So it's really wonderful in terms of what it does for almost all skin conditions. If you ever have any irritations of your skin at all, everything even from a mosquito bite or a spider bite or things like that, where you're having this itchy sensation, inflammation, it really calms all of that inflammatory response down and can accelerate the healing on that. And it's also beneficial for the skin in terms of what it does. I really, really love the hydrating ingredients in it that we do. So the formulation that we do is not just the 10% niacinamide. It has the hydration, the emollients in it that make it such a beautiful cream to utilize on your face, around your face, or on any location of your body. One of the things that we like about the liposomal effect of this is, once again, I love to repeat, is how do I utilize this cream? What's the protocol of using this cream? Is you can target specifically the areas of your body to utilize all of the creams. It's kind of the highlight benefit that we like to talk about. We like to talk about that you can give targeted nutrition because, once again, vitamin, minerals, amino acids, these are the nutritional elements that we look for orally in supplementation. And that is the increased benefit of using the liposomal delivery technology by these topical creams that are able to use on distinctly different parts of your body for different functions. That's why they're utilized in functional clinics by doctors for all the benefits of the different things that each of these creams do, whether it's sleeping, or it's cognition, or stress, or blood pressure, or heart assistance in terms of heart health, vascular health, endothelial health, but also in neuropathy also. This is a beneficial cream also for neuropathy. Many of my clients use it for neuropathy pain, in terms of assisting in terms of walking, or inflammation of the ankles specifically too for neuropathy. And we can talk about that specifically in terms of when we get into topics of neuropathy and the creams involved in them. But the 10% niacinamide is just really one of those surprises that when we formulated, we thought it would be good for, I think, topically for evening out the skin texture for women specifically with the inconsistencies in their faces and for the dark spots. That's also something very good that is utilized for liver spots, or as we get older and our skin gets thinner, we tend to get bruised quicker and we get those dark spots. The 10% niacinamide is very beneficial also for reducing and healing those dark liver spots, if you really call them. But really the function of those spots are really more than anything else. Our skin is losing its elasticity, it's getting thinner, and that's also the benefits of using the collagen power. It's also offering nourishment to the skin to help with keeping the hydration specifically in the skin. And that's, as we get older, that's the whole point of aging skin. It's the inability to keep that collagen structure. And once again, I like the idea of our creams being from the outside in. A lot of times when you're approaching health, or even in beauty health, for example, and functional health of beauty, a lot of the times the cosmeceuticals that are out there right now are just layering on products. But the key that I like about what we've produced with these topical creams is we're really nourishing the skin production from the outside in. We're literally giving the beneath the skin, beneath the epidermis layer, the ability of new skin formation. We are putting the nutrition where the formation of new skin cells and cells themselves begin. So you imagine in restructuring anything like your face, you're depending on supplementation orally, like even in the terms of a lot of people taking these collagen supplements, you're having to depend on the complete absorption of those through the mouth, through the gut, to then basically diffuse or be digested into your circulatory system to eventually get to the point of whole health in the body, and that should be reflected in your skin health. If you can see, a simple approach would be, why not put it where I need it, directly in a location, so it's formulating new skin cells, new fibroblasts of skin cells right underneath. So you're creating new skin. I mean, you're literally transforming. This is bark, basically. Everything that's essentially the external epidermis is we're losing old skin cells every day, and they're just falling off and falling away. But it's the idea of promoting new skin cells, new structure, by giving the nutrition that is needed, vitamins, minerals, amino acids, to create new skin, new health. And that goes along with collagen production, also with joint production, but also with ligament production. One of the things about the 10% niacinamide, which I think is very beneficial, is in ligament production. It's one of the things that happens, for example, in a case like Ron. He is a professional bowler. I'll call him a professional bowler. Anybody who takes it seriously is a pro. Okay. And the key is, when you do damage to a shoulder, like a dislocated shoulder or a softball or any game where you basically have created you've torn ligaments, or in football or anything like that, it's not like you can get surgically repaired. It's difficult. Sometimes it's just a pattern of relaxing and allowing the ligaments specifically to mend and grow back. And a torn ligament, you can't like just really necessarily go in there and repair. If you've torn ligaments, there could be necessarily operations, but then you're recuperating from all of that, having a surgical instrument, tearing up fascia, and basically recovery. 10% niacinamide actually creates the new formation and strengthens ligaments. So when you do go and have a knee replacement or a hip replacement, what ends up happening is, in that operation, whether it's keystone or invasive surgery entirely, you've got all of that destruction in the operation of healing all these areas. And what I like about the 10% niacinamide is it promotes the healing and growth of new fibroblasts, specifically in ligaments. So if you can imagine, in the idea of when I've got issues with the knee or I've got issues with a hip, by increasing or putting on the 10% niacinamide on a regular basis in terms of protocol, you're strengthening the ligaments. And a lot of time it's just that support of the ligaments that are deteriorating through inflammation or old age or lack of mobility. And this is why it seems to be so beneficial, the 10% niacinamide, is that it's very effective for people when they are having hip issues, the inability to walk. I have had many people that have just stopped walking or stopped moving because of needing a hip replacement or a knee replacement, and have found that by utilizing Trauma Max for just specific pain relief and inflammatory response or relief, that the 10% niacinamide really gets into those ligaments and allows them to kind of push through that and get the exercise that was needed, rather than have that continued deterioration of, say, a knee or a hip because they stop moving. And there's nothing worse than just sedentary existence for, if you've got a hip replacement or a knee replacement to happen and you just stop moving, it's not like it's going to, that's going to help them. You need to keep moving. And we always do, as elder people, need to keep moving on that. So that's just kind of an overview of the 10% niacinamide.